Welcome back to the deep dive. Our mission today is a bit of a rapid fire extraction because the last few weeks of November 2025 have just been dizzying. The pace of change across tech, science, even global policy, it feels like every single day brought some historic AI breakthrough. And then it was immediately followed by a stark reminder how fragile everything really is.
That tension is exactly it. That's the one thread that runs through everything you've gathered here. It's this paradox of, unprecedented acceleration on one hand and this underlying fragility on the other. We're seeing the AI arms race move faster than, frankly, most experts ever predicted. But we also just saw dramatic, undeniable proof that the system supporting this whole hyperspeed world can fail catastrophically.
Absolutely. So, okay, what's the roadmap for this deep dive? We're going to tackle the battle for AI supremacy, starting with Google's game-changing Gemini 3 release. Then we'll analyze the almost absurd simplicity of that Cloudflare failure. We'll get into the wildly different visions for the future of work from Elon Musk and Jensen Huang. And then we've got to address the looming threats. Everything from a hard deadline for Bitcoin's survival to the cultural fallout from generative AI, which is giving us everything from amazing fan art to, well, six-fingered Sanus. Let's start with the big one, the seismic event on November 18th, Google's Gemini 3 release. The sources all confirm the hype. It is outperforming GPT-5 to 1. It's outperforming Claude Sonnet 4.5 on several key benchmarks. But the speed isn't really the whole story here. It's what it can actually do.
Right. What's truly disruptive are the generative interfaces.
Yeah.
That's the terms you're using. This is a real shift away from just, text in, text out. So instead of getting back a string of code or a paragraph describing a user interface, developers are getting dynamic visual views, fully laid out interfaces created by the AI itself. We're moving beyond just prompting. These feels almost intuitive.
And there's that anecdote that's already going around with developers. It's incredible. Gemini 3 can understand complex coding intent and then just fill in the gaps, unprompted. We're talking about asking for a simple data visualization tool, and the AI just knows. It recognizes the tool will need accessibility features, keyboard controls, and it just adds them without being told. That's not just coding, that's forethought.
It's anticipatory coding, yeah.
Yeah.
But as fast as Google is moving, so is everyone else. I mean, this release dropped just 6 days after OpenAI's major GPT 5.1 update. So we're already seeing this palpable sense of burnout among developers. They're calling it integration fatigue.
Yeah.
They barely have time to adopt one model before the next one lands.
And it's not a perfect win for Google either. That's a crucial point. While Gemini 3 is blazing new trails with interface generation, the sources are clear. Claude 4.5, it still has the lead in that tedious but essential job of code debugging. And GPT 5.1 is still the most cost-efficient option for, big enterprise use. So the arms race is fragmenting. It's adding complexity, not simplicity.
And that rapid-fire acceleration provides the perfect, almost terrifying backdrop for what happened on the exact same day, November 18th. The day AI took this massive leap in generative capability. The internet infrastructure it's built on proves to be catastrophically brittle.
The Cloudflare outage, this was a global stutter. It knocked out something like 1/5 of all web pages worldwide. And it took down a full third of the world's 10,000 most popular sites. I mean, think about that. X, ChatGPT, Spotify, Zoom, even Coinbase, all gone at the same time.
And here's where the fragility becomes almost laughable if it weren't so serious. The root cause. It wasn't a massive cyber attack. It wasn't a solar flare. It was an automatically generated configuration file. This file, used to manage threat traffic, just grew beyond its expected size. And that triggered catastrophic crashes in the core software that handles all that traffic.
But wait, a single, overly large, auto-generated file took out 1/3 of the world's most critical digital services. It sounds like something out of a cartoon.
It does. But it perfectly summarizes that tension you mentioned at the start. On one hand, you have Gemini 3 showing AI is capable of complex, unprompted, creative work, lightning speed. And on the other, you have a simple config file, probably generated by an automated system itself, proving that our reliance on this centralized infrastructure creates a single point of failure so vast it can halt global commerce.
The speed of innovation is really testing the stability of the foundation. And if we step back from the tech news and look at the bigger philosophical debate around all this speed, that brings us to the U.S.-Saudi Investment Forum on November 19th.
Exactly. This is where Elon Musk and Jensen Huang, two of the most influential people in this space,
Yeah.
They announced plans for this staggering 500-megawatt AI computing facility. But they showed up with two completely contradictory visions for what this means for humanity.
Musk was, as you'd expect, extremely bullish. He doubled down on his prediction that AI and robots will make work optional within, 10 to 20 years? He claimed this would eliminate poverty and eventually make money irrelevant. He even proposed moving AI computing into space to use solar power and zero-gravity cooling.
All right, pure Silicon Valley futurism. But does that vision of optional work even? Does it account for the physical realities we just talked about, like the fragility of the infrastructure you'd need?
That's pretty much the question Huang asked. He offered a much more grounded counterpoint. He argued that AI won't cause mass unemployment, it's going to make people busier. His point was that AI increases human capability, so it increases the volume and depth of the work they can do.
And he used that great example of radiologists. AI helps them analyze more scans, detect more subtle things, spend more time on complex cases. The job isn't gone. It's augmented. It's accelerated. It's an acceleration that requires more human interaction, not less. Though he did add a pretty funny footnote. He jokingly asked Musk to give him some advance notice before currency officially disappears.
This speed, this acceleration, it's driving huge shifts in how code is even written. And speaking of natural language and intuition, Collins Dictionary just named its word of the year for 2025, vibe coding. I love that phrase.
It's a perfect way to describe the shift, isn't it? It was coined by Anders Karpathy, and vibe coding describes this new reality, where a coder uses natural language, the vibe, to direct an AI to write the complex syntax. It really elevates the coder from being a mechanic to being an architect.
It changes the job entirely. You move from obsessing over semicolons to managing intent and quality. But while the input is becoming more natural, the underlying programming languages, they still matter a lot. And the market is showing a really significant pivot.
Yeah, if you look at the TIOB index, Python is still dominant. It's at 23.37%. It was 2024's language of the year. But its growth has just visibly plateaued. And what's fascinating is where all that energy is going now. It's going to Rust.
Rust is soaring. It's in 8th place now at almost 2% penetration. Why? Why the sudden accelerated adoption?
Well, it's because of the security crisis that's hiding behind all this acceleration. Rust is recognized everywhere as the top secure language because it's memory safe. And the sources show this clear trend in 2025. You've got Microsoft, Google, and crucially, government agencies like the NSA and CISA, all pushing mandates to adopt memory-safe languages for critical infrastructure. So after years of just chasing speed with languages like Python, 2025 became the year the industry finally prioritized stability and security.
And that transition is so critical because security is about to become an existential problem, not just for our infrastructure, but for the whole digital financial system. Which brings us to the looming quantum deadline.
This raises a really urgent question. How much time does Bitcoin, and really all modern encryption, actually have? Theo Peronin, he's the CEO of Alice & Bob, gave this stark warning at Web Summit. He said current quantum computers are advancing so fast they will crack Bitcoin's encryption shortly after 2030. And with Google's recent demo of that 105-qubit Willow chip showing real error reduction, this threat is moving from theoretical to inevitable.
The danger isn't just waiting until 2030, though. It's happening right now. These harvest now, decrypt later attacks.
Precisely. Sophisticated state actors, other groups, they're already collecting encrypted blockchain data today. They can just hold on to it, stick it in a giant data center, and wait. Wait for the quantum computers to be powerful enough in the early 2030s, and then decrypt and drain those accounts retroactively.
And how many Bitcoin are we talking about? How many are vulnerable right now?
6.51 million Bitcoin. That's worth over $700 billion. They're currently exposed because they're in older, vulnerable address formats. So Peronin's crucial takeaway wasn't a suggestion, it was an imperative. He said Bitcoin needs to fork by 2030. We have a hard deadline for a massive infrastructural shift, or a huge chunk of the crypto market just vanishes.
So we've got a fragile digital foundation of vulnerable digital currency. It makes you wonder, how robust are our physical supply chains? Let's shift gears to some strategic global moves, starting with Europe trying to reduce its reliance on Asia.
This is a major defensive play for what they're calling strategic autonomy. Europe currently depends on China for 90% of its permanent magnets, and you need those for everything: wind turbines, robotics, electric vehicle motors.
So on September 19th, 2025, Europe's first rare earth magnet plant opened in Narva, Estonia. What kind of capacity are we talking about here?
A substantial capacity, enough to produce magnets for over 1 million electric vehicles a year. This is strategically vital, especially as that green tech push accelerates. Europe is basically trying to de-risk its supply chains by building up its own sovereign capacity.
And speaking of strategic positioning, Google DeepMind isn't just expanding in the West. On November 19th, they announced a new AI research lab in Singapore.
Oh, that's a shrewd move.
Yeah.
It's designed to position the Asia-Pacific region as an AI creator of foundational models,
Mm.
not just a consumer of Western ones. The lab's focus is explicitly on linguistic and cultural inclusivity for the region's diverse populations. It's about advancing Gemini's capabilities in ways that reflect local languages and contexts. The AI arms race is truly global now, and it's being fought on cultural fronts.
Okay, let's talk about a domestic policy shock here in the U.S. An era just ended very quietly on November 12th. The U.S. Mint stamped its final penny.
Yeah, after 230 years, the penny was eliminated because of these mounting production losses. It cost 3.69 cents to make a 1-cent coin, which translated into an $85.3 million loss in 2024. The government expects to save about $56 million a year by stopping production.
So economic sense wins out, but what's the immediate result for consumers?
Well, the sources say the immediate result is shortages and confusion. Retailers are now rounding cash transactions up or down to the nearest nickel. Even though cash is only, 14% of U.S. transactions now? It seems minor, but it's a policy shock that changes the consumer experience of currency after 2 centuries.
And if the value of a penny is now suspect, what about the value of something we assume is trustworthy, like natural mineral water?
The Perrier court ruling on November 19th was one of the most frustrating things I read in this whole pile. It absolutely redefined consumer trust and regulatory relevance, really. A French court ruled that Perrier can officially keep its natural mineral water label, even after it was revealed that its parent company, Nestlé, had illegally used banned treatments on the water, specifically UV light and activated carbon.
Hold on. They admitted to using illegal processes, and the court just said, keep the label. Doesn't that just undermine the entire concept of natural products and corporate compliance?
It creates this fascinating legal precedent where commercial necessity seems to just override physical reality. And you can see the result on Perrier's own website. It now has a note acknowledging that the water may not fully qualify as such. It's a perfect example of a regulatory structure built for a slower world failing to keep up with modern mass production. It basically forces you, the consumer, to question the integrity of every single label.
It's not all doom and gloom, though. We do have some genuine milestones. Let's look at the space race. Blue Origin successfully completed the second flight of its New Glenn rocket on November 13th.
And this was a critical step for them. They didn't just launch. They successfully landed the first stage booster on their seafaring platform, the Jacqueline, for the first time. This makes Blue Origin only the second company in history to recover a booster during an operational flight. It cements them as a real high-stakes competitor to SpaceX. It was so significant that it even earned congratulations from SpaceX President Gwynne Shotwell.
That's a definite shift in the competitive landscape. And a little closer to home, the Chinese astronauts on the Tiangong station had a culinary breakthrough. It really speaks to crew morale.
Yes. They used a new hot air oven to successfully cook marinated chicken wings. Took 28 minutes, and black pepper steaks. This is way beyond just rehydrating a food pack. This is generating chemical reactions that create real aroma and flavor. And experts say that being able to provide hot, fresh, palatable meals is a massive, often overlooked boost for crew morale on long missions.
Let's bring it back to that cultural connection point, where the speed of generative AI clashes directly with the public's demand for authenticity. We saw that tension play out so dramatically in the gaming world this month.
Oh, you have two perfect examples here. On one hand, you have that immediate fan frenzy over the first official live-action Legend of Zelda photos. Fans went ballistic over the incredible accuracy, the pointed healing ears, the New Zealand landscapes. It was seen as a sign of true, deliberate, human commitment to the source material.
And then you contrast that with the complete collapse of Call of Duty. Black Ops 7. It plunged to a truly awful 1.7 out of 10 on the Metacritic user score, the lowest in the franchise's history, all because players discovered AI-generated calling cards in the game's assets.
This is the practical result of that vibe coding and speed discussion we had earlier. Players were furious at being served what they instantly called AI slop. And the symbol of it all, a zombie Santa, with 6 fingers on his hand. The sources confirmed they used generative AI tools, and the backlash led to widespread calls for regulation against using AI to displace human artists.
That 6-fingered Santa is the perfect visual. It's the risk you run when you prioritize pure speed over human quality control. It just instantly breaks the immersion and shatters the player's trust.
It certainly does. It perfectly illustrates that while AI can generate things at lightning speed, public tolerance for non-human errors and beloved franchises is, well, it's rapidly dwindling.
We should also quickly note a milestone for human artistry. David Skessley won the prestigious 2025 Booker Prize for his novel Flesh. A good reminder that human storytellers still command the highest literary honors, even as vibe coding takes over the digital world. So let's try to wrap up this dizzying dive. We've covered everything from Google's model showing unprompted foresight to the absurdity of a single config file crashing a third of the world's most popular websites. We even saw a 230-year-old staple, the US penny, finally give up the ghost.
The common thread here is the unsustainable speed of change. The quantum threat deadline, the vibe coding shift, that Cloudflare failure, the Call of Duty disaster, they all point to one thing. The speed of innovation is fundamentally testing the integrity of our systems, digital, financial, even regulatory. It's forcing us to redefine what natural means, like with the Perrier ruling, and what authentic means in a world saturated with generative output.
It's a world that's accelerating so fast that critical structures are just failing behind the scenes.
Absolutely. The acceleration is undeniable, but it requires a corresponding increase in systemic resilience and human scrutiny. And that leads us to our final provocative thought for you to mull over. Considering the catastrophic Cloudflare failure, which proved that complexity at scale equals fragility, and factoring in the global backlash against rushed, low-quality AI assets in major cultural products, we have to ask, if the ultimate promise of AI is speed and optional human work, how many critical elements of human oversight and infrastructural stability are we actually sacrificing in the pursuit of pure, unadulterated velocity?